Hello and welcome to the third part of my Jugwoodic Outsider review series. This time I will be reviewing Outsiders Volume 3, Wanted. If you didn't know, this book is the sister series to Jeff Johns' Teen Titans, which was running concurrently. They actually has a crossover after this. If you haven't already, please check out my Outsiders Volume 1 and Outsiders Volume 2 reviews. Links in the video description below to get caught up. With that being said, let's get started. Outsiders Wanted is when the outsiders become real. In the majority of this book, they're not fighting super villains. They're fighting human trafficking. That's right. This topic is still relevant today, and this book came out in 2004. Jugwoodic has always been the type of writer to write a lot of social topics into his books, just like in his Green Lantern run. He did the hate crime storyline, which is one of his famous. He did Pedro and Me. He's very socially conscious, but he doesn't sacrifice the story for the message. He always puts the story first and the message on the same level. He's just not going to tell a story about human trafficking and that's just it. No, he knows how to tell that story. And that's very interesting. But before I get to that, there was one issue before where the team outsiders kind of fight back against Nightwing. I kind of feel very validated because if you watch my other series, I'm calling Nightwing the Batman of the team, and this book comes out and says it. All his team members are calling him, hey, you're not Batman, which is to me very, very entertaining and very, very sad because we all know Dick Grayson as the high-flying smile of the DCU, and this book he is not that. He's very edgy. He's very Batman. And it doesn't look like that's going to change anytime soon. So the first issue has Jade on the phone with somebody. You have Thunder injured talking to her father who seems a little chipper. And Nightwing tries to talk to Black Lightning. But Black Lightning's like, I'm going to tear your head off. You need to lead better. And you want to be honest, is it Nightwing's direct fault for his teammates getting injured? No. But he is the leader. So he does have a sense of responsibility for this team. So if they get hurt on his watch, it is his fault. So I'm not saying his leadership should not be questioned because it totally should be. Arsenal and Dick have this really epic confrontation where they're insulting each other. Since these are guys who have known each other since the 60s, they can stab each other so hard because they know each other's very dark secrets and their insecurities. So Arsenal telling Dick Grayson that he's afraid of becoming Batman. And Dick Grayson, he does such a low blow. He brings up his own heroin addiction. And they go to blows. It's a pretty epic fight, which ends in Jade telling Dick that he is no longer the leader and she's going to be the new leader. She recruited Starfire. If you don't know, Dick Grayson and Starfire have a deep relationship with each other. They almost got married, but they didn't. But they've been on again, off again for like 40 years. And now I just want to talk about Jade taking over. If you look at my other videos, I don't really talk that highly about Jade in these books. Not because of the character, but because she doesn't really do that much. And she gets beaten up. With that being said, no one else besides her could be the leader. Grace couldn't be the leader. Thunder couldn't be the leader. Indigo, Schiff couldn't be the leader. Arsenal, he could be the leader, but I don't think they would let that because he would be too much like Nightwing. So Jade is the only real option. But, well, I guess as I go through the story, I'll tell you some of my other thoughts of her being the actual leader. So Dick Grayson's confused. He doesn't know if he should leave the book or not, leave the team, but he stays. I think he stays really out of spite, but I'm not sure. I'm not sure why he stays. So the teams are still going on missions, and on one mission, Grace finds a group of girls strapped down to a bed. She takes it pretty hard because we learn that she was in their same situation, that the brand they wear, she wears. She just becomes anger. And it's kind of great storytelling because the beginning of the issue, or when they're on the mission, Grace and Schiff are just having a good time, going through the ropes and going through the motions, and then they just get hit with this reality of, man, this human trafficking is real and we gotta stop it. And really, Jade doesn't really want to touch it. She doesn't think that's their job. They need to fight bigger things. And Grace is really not giving them an option because she's personally involved. She was these girls, these same exact people, the same exact situation she was in. So eventually, the new leader, Jade, says, okay. Arsenal tries to talk with her because they have this physical relationship, but there's no emotional relationship behind their relationship. So she doesn't care about what Arsenal has to say at all because she doesn't care about him. It's just physical to her, and he's just some dude. He's a booty call, and he doesn't care about his opinion, even though he is trying to put the effort of being emotionally there for her. I think later on they'll become closer because something that happens within this book. So Nightwing has this great idea of going on America's Most Wanted, the TV show, and using America's public to find the human traffickers. And they go to the station, they meet the host, and they figure out who kidnapped this one girl, and they put him on the TV. And they do a bust, but we learn that the real ringleader is this guy named Tanner. Yeah, so the rest of the story, they're looking for the human trafficking, and they finally find Tanner. Grace beats him up. But before that happens, Roy is spotted by his old drug dealer. And the drug dealer tells Tanner who he is, and they obviously can find that he has a child. So Roy's daughter was kidnapped, put into the human trafficking. She was going to be human trafficked if they didn't find her. But luckily they did, but the scars are still there. She gets the same brand that Grace has on her back. So she's going to live with her scars forever, just like Grace. It's very sad. You can understand the heightened emotions Roy is going to be later on. This whole story arc is about trust. This whole volume, I should say. Who should you trust? The people you love? Should you keep the people you love at a distance? That's put on very big display on the latter half of this volume, where after this emotionally draining caper, the outsiders are trying to unwind. And this is when we learn Shift and Indigo are not only romantically involved, but they're also physically involved. They fight a giant robot, Shift and Indigo, and they're like, we don't know how he got in there. And Roy is very suspicious of everything, and they find out that their parent company is owned by Wayne Industries. That's right. Batman is still bankrolling the outsiders, and Nightwing is not happy about that. He says he's still Batman and the outsiders. And then Roy comes clean and says, all that information I've been getting? I've been getting it from Batman, which makes even Nightwing more pissed. And he goes off and he talks to Bruce in the Batcave. And the conversation was quite civil. Dick is still angry and yelling. Bruce is kind of sorry for not telling him that he's bankrolling his team. But he's only doing it because he believes in Dick and he believes in the outsiders and the purpose of the team. And then this is also coming down the heels of Identity Crisis by Brad Meltzer. I don't really want to talk too much about Identity Crisis. That's going to be a video for another day. But what's pertinent to this story is the DC comics in general, all the heroes are becoming very untrustworthy with each other. Especially Batman, because he learns that his mind has been tampered with some of his fellow heroes. So his, thought process and his trustworthiness is at an all-time low, and he doesn't want to trust anybody. This is right before, say, the War Games version of the character. Right now, I believe is Hush is going on, and that comes with his own can of worms, but Dick Grayson is telling him that they can, that they can trust each other, and they are family. But Bruce is not with it. Ever since of his new scarring in his mind, he's like, you can't trust anybody, Dick. Nobody. Don't even trust me. Don't trust anybody. which really messes up with Dick. It's going to ruin his psyche. At the same time, Dick is having this conversation with Bruce. Roy is having a conversation with Batman. How's that possible? Dick's talking to Batman. Well, it turns out that the guy Roy has been getting intel from is not Batman. It's Deathstroke, the Terminator. Again, this is post-Identity Crisis, where Deathstroke became a big villain within the DCU, where he takes out the Justice League. So Arsenal gets into a combat situation with him, which obviously goes nowhere good for Arsenal because, like I just said, we just established that Deathstroke can fight the Justice League. So that really messes up him. He gets injured some more. Deathstroke doesn't kill him. I don't know if it's because of the injuries Roy has. I'm not really quite sure. He just lets him live. So when Roy recovers from the fight with Deathstroke, he kind of starting to put two and two together with the help of Indigo that they have a spy within their organization, and he's not letting anybody leave until he figures it out. So he does these, lie detectors. He kind of emotionally manipulates Starfire, which I don't think has anything to worry about because he's bringing it up some sabotage from the beginning of the story. When I mean the story, I mean of the series, which Starfire was not involved. But I guess, everyone's a suspect, right? And he comes to the conclusion that Shift is a spy. And the last image is him shooting Shift with his radioactive bullet and locking him up, setting up, I guess, the next story arc, which is a crossover with the Titans called Teen Titans, Outsiders, The Insiders. Now, what do I like about this book? I really love that conversation between Bruce and Dick. It reminded me a lot of an old Jim Starlin Batman issue where Dick confronts Bruce right after Bruce gets Jason Todd as a Robin, which there is a panel of Jason's Robin costume showing, Batman's his trust and his failures with trust. And Winnick will be the guy to bring Jason back in the pages of Under the Hood. Like I said, the same time Hush is going on. I don't know what issue it would be, but Jason Todd is hinted of coming back in that book. But Batman right there is a lot about failure and mistrust. So I really like that conversation. I love when those two just talk to each other because in my mind they should be the closest people in the DCU. I kind of find it fun that Deathstroke becomes this big bad for some reason. That was super fun. Manipulating the outsiders by making them do his bidding and taking out the competition. That's pretty fun. The human trafficking stuff, that was not fun, but it's really well done social issues, and I think a lot of comic book writers can learn from Winnick today because, yes, this is very much a heavy topic, but he still knows how to tell a compelling story, which a lot of writers today struggle with, so I like that. Starfire adding to the team as of right now hasn't added anything. Jade as the leader hasn't added anything because Nightwing's still telling them what to do. So there's that. And Grace, she goes through a lot of character development with her coming from her past, and that's the struggle of, she didn't kill Tanner. She let Tanner live. So there's some development there. The Indigo Shift relationship was fun, but now Shift being maybe a traitor is something we're going to deal with later. I think Indigo is becoming a great character. She's talking way more normal now, less robot. Overall, this was a pretty great volume, and I'm excited to see what happens next. But the next volume of comics I will be reviewing is not the crossover. I'm going back and reading Teen Titans Volume 1 by Jeff Johns, and I'm going to be going through that series now until the crossover, which means my next 4 reviews will be Teen Titans reviews, and then the 5th one will be the crossover with the Outsiders, and then I'll begin the Outsiders again. That being said, thank you all for watching this video. Thank you again for giving me the time of day and listening to this little review. If you have read The Outsiders, comment down below to tell me what you think about the series. Give this a thumbs up if you liked the video, and subscribe if you are inclined to. It would mean a lot to me. With that being said, this has been Jack Minnelli from Minnelli Studio Comics signing off. See you later.